Welcome to the Unscripted Authentic Leadership Podcast, a podcast where we are seeking to lead change. We're also seeking to understand. We're also here to provide a community for leaders to come together to unite, to develop and empower other leaders in the areas of business, faith, family, and community. I am your host, Lafayette Lane, joined by my co-host, John LeBrun. Today, we are joined by a special guest, Becky Morrison. We'll get more into who she is and what she does in a second. But before we get into all of that good stuff, we definitely want to say thank you to all of our supporters, those of you that are supporting us here on the platform of YouTube, on our channel there, Unscripted Authentic Leadership, or whether you're following us on our various social media platforms there, on Facebook, Unscripted Authentic Leadership, Instagram, our Instagram handle is at Unscripted Leadership. And you can also find us on LinkedIn, Unscripted Authentic Leadership. Those of you that may not watch the podcast, but you stream our podcast, you can find it on various streaming platforms where you can find podcasts anywhere from Apple to Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, IHeart Radio, Stitcher, and so forth. We are so excited. You all can also visit our website. That is new there, unscripted-leadership.com, where you can find out that we are more than just a podcast, but we are a platform that provides training and so forth. You can find information there where you can connect with us. If you want to be a guest on the show and so forth. And so we want you to connect with us there. As we also say, share this podcast. If you're listening or streaming, subscribe, or also leave us a review and a rating. Give us a thumbs up there and share this with someone that will help them to be the better. As I said from the beginning, we are joined today by a special guest, Becky Morrison. We're so excited to have her. Before we let her talk, we definitely got to check in on our guy, John, and see how he's doing. How's it going, bro?
He always checks in on me. Thanks, man. I'm good. It's been a good weekend. I'm excited about getting into this with Becky.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Me too. Been a great weekend, a busy weekend moving. I'm excited to get into this conversation. As many as you know that we know that February, we've been starting a series, our topic around the word authenticity. And I believe our guest today fits right into that mode and that theme. She's going to share some wisdom, some gems with us that'll help us be the authentic leaders that we've been called to be. And so I'm going to turn it over at this time to our special guest, Becky Morrison, to just introduce herself and tell our Unscripted Authentic Leadership audience who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Well, thanks. I just first want to say thank you for having me here to have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
And as you said, my name is Becky Morrison. I'm a lawyer turned executive coach, and really, I'm truly at my heart a happiness and leadership coach. And a little bit about me, I had a 20 plus year career that started in the world of litigation. I was a litigator for a handful of years and then moved to the management of law firms and then worked in entrepreneurial finance before deciding and really discovering that what drives me is helping other people live happier, easier, more successful lives. And so that's what I do now full time.
Awesome. So that was a lot that going on there. Starting as a lawyer, moved to executive coach, and now you're doing other things as well. And so we definitely want to start from that beginning. From the lawyer, what was the transition for you from going from the lawyer to the executive coach? But I guess before you really get into that, how did you get into becoming a lawyer?
So I don't have a great answer. Well, that's not fair. I judge my answer for why I went into becoming a lawyer, and here it is. So right after college, I went and worked for Prudential in a management development program and found myself at the end of that program working in the sales office of Prudential Healthcare. And about 3 months after I started my full-time job there, they got sold to Aetna. And that meant that all sales stopped. And so I took that as a sign that it was time to go to grad school, something that I had always thought that I wanted to do. And in my mind, I wasn't interested in any particular area of study enough to pick like a master's in international relations or a master's in political science. So that really narrowed it down for me to med school, law school, or business school. And I had already rejected med school because I had not pursued the science part of my undergrad very successfully. And so that brought it down to med school. to law school and business school. And I kind of flipped a coin. I mean, I didn't literally flip a coin, but I may as well have. And so that's how I ended up in law school, because it seemed like the next logical step. And it seemed like it would be a good sort of on paper successful opportunity to pursue. Looking back, I realized that I was doing something that a lot of people do, which is exactly that. They look at something and say, this is what I should do next. And they do it. And so then you asked, and I can stop if you've got questions there, but I can keep going and answer the next part of your question, which is how did I get from lawyer to executive coach? And I will tell you that transition started about 4 years into my litigation career. I had what I call my bathtub moment. And it's not what it sounds like. So picture this. I have a 2-year-old. I'm a litigator. We're in the midst of preparing for a really big trial. My job is to prepare our expert witnesses. We're in that part of trial prep where we've got calls scheduled well into the evening. And my husband, who was working in counterterrorism at the time, is stuck at work because something in the world has exploded, literally. Mm-hmm. So I find myself at 8:00 sitting on the floor of my bathroom with my 2-year-old in the tub and the cordless phone clipped to the back of my pants and my notebook on the closed toilet seat and papers spread out all around me, preparing my experts and trying to bathe my child. And I had 2 thoughts in super quick succession. The first thought was, I'm a rock star. Like, look at me. I'm literally doing it all. And the next thought was, this is unsustainable. I can't do it this way forever. And I've got to really start to think about what matters most to me. And I wish I could tell you that I went from that moment right into this career of meaning that I've landed in, but it wasn't like that, because life isn't like that. And It took me through a series of seasons and a series of transitions of letting go of what would be the next logical step to land in this place.
So it was kind of like the seed moment, right?
That was a big seed moment for me. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
That was so good. That was so good. I don't know if you were about to say something, bro, but I want to tap into that unsustainable piece.
Yes.
Because I think that correlates with authenticity. One thing that John and I have been saying about the authenticity, people are trying to find themselves in their identity, trying to be like someone else. And that word that you just said, unsustainable. Trying to be someone, trying to portray someone else and not being your authentic self may work for now, but you cannot sustain that long term. Dig in a little bit more about that. Once you found that it was unsustainable, where did you go from there?
Well, I had that moment of like, it's unsustainable, and that just truly planted the seed. And it actually took, fast forward, I guess from that point, it was probably about a year. And I had a life-threatening pregnancy loss. And I almost died, literally almost died. And you know how they say your life flashes before your eyes? Do you know what I saw? I saw conference calls and conference rooms and meetings. And that was really the wake-up call of, is this what I want my legacy to look like? And so I knew that something needed to change. And I knew that I needed to get clear on what mattered most to me. And what mattered most to me was being able to use this education that I had gotten and being able to use the brain that I had, but also being available to my family. And so again, I was a little constrained by thinking about what I perceived was reasonably possible. So I looked kind of within these walls of, okay, in the legal arena, what can I do that will allow me the flexibility to be available to my family, to put family first, but still be a working mom. And I landed in an admin role at a very large law firm. So I was still engaged in the world of law, albeit not the practice of law, but I had a lot more control over my schedule. And so I just like incrementally shifted and really was able to focus on, now at that point I had 2 children and was able to be at their school events and their, when they were sick, I could stay home, that kind of stuff. And that was really important to me at that time.
Great. John, go ahead, bro.
No, you're fine. I just, I think so many of us do that. I step back to when you were talking about flipping a coin as you go through school,
Mhm.
right? That's literally what I did as well. I mean, I not flip the coin, but it's basically the same.
Yep.
I remember being in high school, and I loved architecture. I was pretty good drafting houses and structures, and I thought I'll go to school for architecture. And then what changed my mind was somebody said, "Ooh, it's really competitive, and you have to have really good grades." I was a BC student.
Mhm.
I wasn't a BC student because I couldn't learn things. I was a BC student because I would much rather play soccer and hang out with my girlfriend than, study. And so, I mean, you're 16, 17, I married my girlfriend from high school. So those C's were worth it.
Yes.
So, whatever, all you A students, I married my high school sweetheart, but, I mean, I'm sort of kidding, but not really. But I remember like that. I thought, oh, I love to do this, and then one or two people sort of put that seed of doubt in my head,
Mhm.
and I completely changed my mind. And so I thought, well, what else can I do? And someone said, how about engineering? I thought, okay. So how did I decide that? I looked at the salary chart that the school gives you, and I was like, looks pretty good. I'll go with
Mhm.
that. That's how I made my decision. There was no like well thought out research, and I just went with that. And then in college, I switched about halfway through. I just picked something. And
Mhm.
so it was all just kind of tossing up thing. But you're 18, 19, 20 years old, 21, heck, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do the rest of my life. No, I mean, not really, but you get what I'm saying. So I think so many people can relate to when you're saying, I didn't know what to do, so I flipped a coin and went this way. Because, and I think what you said was, it seemed like that was the thing I was supposed to do, right? That's most of us. I think that this is what I'm supposed to do, is go to college for this. And I'm not downing on college. I'm just saying we expect 18-year-olds to make this very big financial decision, and they don't even know they're still just trying to get graduated with high school, and we're just not ready for that. And then we wonder why they switch after they graduate careers completely by the time they're 27.
Yep.
And so forth. So I think what you said is so key, and I'd love to touch on that some more if you can, like how you came to where you are from that. I know you mentioned your bathroom moment and so forth, to get to where you started switching how you're doing your scheduling and so forth. But how did that transition into finding that what your passion or what you're good at or what you want to do is within like coaching and mentorship?
So a couple of things went into that. The first thing is, when I was in the admin role for a law firm, which I did for about a decade and had a lot of fun with, I really spent time thinking kind of on a regular basis about what is it that I like about my job. And that answer almost always included the point that I already made, which is it afforded me the flexibility to be a mom first. But I really loved working with people. I mean, at the height of my sort of world in that law firm, I was managing upwards of 200 staff and attorneys. And that was fun. Being able to influence people, being able to watch them develop was something that I really enjoyed. And so when it sort of like came time to move on, not because anything had gone wrong, but sometimes when you've been swimming in a pond too long, it's like you're swimming the same swim and it's not fun anymore. It's time to look for the next thing. And so when the time came to do that, I looked to go to an organization where I could have, again, an impact on people and process. And that's how I ended up in a more entrepreneurial space, which was great. But also still didn't feel like the right thing. And what I did then is I hired a coach.
Okay.
And that coach helped me walk through even deeper and broader, more importantly, exploration of what really drove me. And then we considered a wide-ranging list of possible careers. And when I say wide-ranging, I mean it included things like financial planner, social worker, working with veterans, working with ex-convicts, working, just really a very broad fashion stylist, interior decorator, right? Like just thinking of different ways to help people live better lives. And then I sort of connected the dots with my past experience of really enjoying managing people in a professional capacity. And that's how I landed on coaching.
So if you don't mind, Lafayette, you
Sure.
had written something about focusing on a what versus a why,
Mm-hmm.
which I think ties into probably what you were just mentioning. And it's probably controversial to many listeners because we're taught find your why. I think actually the way you described it, there's some similarities and some crossovers, but I got what you were getting at. Can you hit on that?
Sure.
This concept that you wrote about as far as for happiness and finding out sort of what should I do with my life, focusing on the what versus your why. We all hear about what's your why. Why are you? But I think that kind of comes down to, for me, it's like, why has God put me on this earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that reason that I believe, and then the things I do sort of support that reason.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is honestly arguing what you wrote about the what versus the why, but I liked how you simplified that concept for somebody who doesn't understand. How do I figure out a why? Because most people don't, right? It took me till I was probably 30 to even have an idea.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
I'd be happy to. So I just have been doing some thinking recently, and I think, find your why has become this like tagline in the professional development world.
Yes.
And there's this vibe that I get sometimes that like, if you're not succeeding or if you aren't achieving your goals, it's because your why just wasn't strong enough. Like if you had the right why, you would get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And I really take issue with that because I think a lot of times what's actually happening when we don't achieve the goals we set is that we're setting goals that we believe other people think we should do, or that we believe we should do because society says we should do. 100%. And so it's not the why that's the issue, it's the what. It's that what we are trying to achieve is not actually tied into the real why, which is the one you said, right? This global, universal, divine why is the one that matters. But the find your why has become code for find the thing that'll make you do the thing you don't really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, really,
yes.
Like, what's the, and I get it. Like when we tie it back, like I think, Simon Sinek wrote the book, Start With Why. And when you tie it back to what he was doing, he's talking about it in the leadership and motivational context. And absolutely, when you're working within an organization, sometimes you need to identify a why for people because you're going to be asking them to do something that isn't exactly what they want to do. That's part of leading teams, right? Like that's not their top priority. So yeah, the why matters in that context. But when it comes down to doing things for ourselves, it's not these little whys not being good enough. It's that we're not focused in the right direction that gets in our way.
That's good. You were making that distinction between the what and the why. And the whole time that I've heard you talk, never were you motivated by money or something that was external that could fade away, that was materialistic, which means you were pointing to what made you happy. There's that what again. And so I want to dig and unfold, and I know that's something that's important to you about this happiness piece, because people are motivated why this would make me happy, but not the what of the happiness. And so talk to us, Becky, a little more about what happiness did for you, or what made you happy, or why that is so important to you, and why we need to tap into that more than something that would fade away that's materialistic.
Well, let me start by saying that I believe that so let me back up. Here's the deal with happiness. I think rarely do we really dig into what makes us happy. If I ask 10 people on the street, what makes you happy? I'm going to get probably 4 of those people who say, gee, I don't really know. I'm not really sure. And then I'm going to get the other 5 who give me, well, that's not fair. I'm going to get 4 more who give me the surface answer. Good paycheck, pretty woman, whatever, like great relationship, like the surface answer. Okay. And I'm going to get one person who's done the deeper work. And that person's going to know the essence of what makes them happy. Mm-hmm. So it could be, I have a 17-year-old and I pick on her a lot because she really wants a G-Wagon, like a lot. Why? I don't know. But I use it as an example. It may be that a G-Wagon makes you happy, but until you can explain to me what it is about that drives your happiness, it's not worth talking about. So is it the status symbol of it? Is it that you really love Mercedes cars or really fancy machines, and that really is something you engage in and love? I mean, until you can get to that deeper level, it's not worth it. So let me give you another more concrete example that picks on my daughter less and might resonate with people more. A lot of people, when you ask them what makes you happy, on the list will be vacation. Let me ask you guys, you like vacation?
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. What do you like about vacation?
For me, it's the 2 weeks with just me and the family.
Okay, so connection with family is important.
Yeah.
Time to just be free. Don't have to worry about, got to go here, got to get here, got to do this, got to do that.
Freedom and less scheduled, structured time. I like it. What else? Is there anything else?
One of my happiest times is we go down to Florida every year and to family members, and they have this infinity pool. Mm-hmm. And there's a spot at the end of the infinity pool that you can actually sit on to where you're about chest deep in the water. And I can sit there, the sun comes down, and I can just sit there and look out at their ocean. And it's just super relaxing. But it's not even just a relaxing. It's the best reflect time that I get. And I'll take about an hour or 30 minutes. I'll just sit there and I can just think about how's this year been going? Just reflect on all the things that I just let my mind just do its job. And what are the good things, bad things? What are some things I want to do? Think about my kids and what their journey. And that's when I envision vacation, that's my happiest spot.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so that's a great example. So if I told you could never go on vacation again, would you have to give up that happiness?
No, I would just move my office to that house. And
well, I mean, you joke, but I mean, there's something to it, right? Like, so now that we know what it is about vacation for both of you, or at least the first level down, you can think about, well, how can I incorporate that in my actual everyday life? Could I build in an hour a week that I find a quiet spot in the sunshine, whether it's inside or outside, and I reflect? Mm-hmm. Could I make a commitment to Sundays are for family? Could I block off 2 hours a week that are free to do whatever the heck I want to do?
Yeah.
And what just happens to your happiness when you did that? You just and you just incorporated vacation into life. Mm-hmm. So that to me is what it's about. It's about really, and that's deeply tied into authenticity, because authenticity starts with knowing yourself. Mm-hmm. And if you can't answer the question of where my happiness comes from at the way I talk about it, at an essential level, you're missing out. You're missing out on tons of happiness opportunities, even in challenging times. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That was a different perspective. Okay.
Yeah, I loved it. I never thought of it that way. I love that. And I'm definitely going to use that exercise. I mean, you always know it's not, well, I always knew it's not like in a car, right? Yeah. If anybody feels like happiness is in a car, go lease one or rent one for a week.
Try it. Absolutely.
I mean, you might feel special for a day, but once you get some snow on it and stuff, you're just eventually like, okay, I mean, it's nice to have, but you're no happier with it or without, I promise. Same with your home, right? I've had different size homes. Happiness level is the same. Yep. Same as when I was in an apartment. And so, no, that's so good. I really like that. Now I feel like I should move to Florida.
But I mean, hey, I'm gonna challenge you a little bit on that and say you don't have to be in Florida to give yourself that reflection time, because the smile 100%. That was on your face, it comes from that picturing that beautiful scenery and that beautiful spot in the pool. But more than that, it comes from really being able to connect with yourself.
Yeah, it's 100% because I don't even, when I vacation, I don't even leave all my work at home. I still bring a laptop.
Mhm.
I still touch on things because one of the things that makes me happy is fulfillment and purpose. And
Mhm.
I have a hard time not, like people say, oh, leave it all at home. Well, that's what everybody else does because they have a job and they don't like it, right? I work on things that I think are exciting and fun. And so to me, doing this right now is fun. It's
Yeah.
not like I don't have to like make myself do it, right? And so you can take that everywhere you go and it doesn't ruin your vacation. So that's amazing. I really like what you had to say.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And vacation, I mean, like that's the tip of the iceberg, right? Like, but it gives you the idea.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
goodness.
hit there at the end about the authenticity. I think you said it starts with knowing yourself, knowing who you are. What does authenticity mean to you? Can you expound on all that a little bit more?
I mean, I think, like I said, it starts with knowing yourself, but it goes deeper than that. It is also accepting that you're not going to like all of it. You know, that it's not all going to be comfortable, that you are a human being who is inherently, in some ways, flawed. And so authenticity, like people, you're right, you said it up front, like people get this idea of like, or maybe it was when we were talking before, but at any rate, people get this idea of like authenticity looks like what so-and-so is doing because they claim to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Authenticity looks like being, for me, it looks like being Becky Morrison, who is a lawyer turned happiness coach. And I don't think you get more like willing to be authentic than that, right? Because it's illogical. I almost always have to explain how I got from A to B. But the reality is it's about owning who you are at your core, recognizing that it's going to be difficult and sometimes recognizing you're not going to like certain things, that you need to change and grow, and being willing to own that part, own your mistakes, and really just be all of who you are in every situation. And I say that like, if you met me on this podcast or you ran into me in the grocery store or we met at church or we met in a professional context, you're going to get the same person every single time.
It's good. Go ahead, bro.
You know, so many, this has been, so I want, this has sort of been answered, I think, but I want to hit it, like, make sure it's well aware. Because I think there's so many listeners who are in a profession, have been doing it for a long time. There's, you know, one of the highest dropout or early, you know, it's not really retirement, but dropout rates in professions is teachers, right? Like these people get into a field, not even not for money, right? Teachers actually get paid okay, but they don't get into it for that, right? My wife's a teacher, and so, but they get so burnt out, and I can talk about that forever. But people in positions like that, or even other fields, you get into it and then you stay with it for the next 15 years because you feel like, well, this is what I've been doing. What else am I gonna do? And my point's always been like, if you're not happy, then find a switch, right? There's too much life still to go. I'm 37. I still got 2/3 more to run. And so, like, can you talk about making that change? Like, how hard was it to just go from attorney to happiness coach? And how do you make that, like, actually make that turn? And what did you find along the way? Was it hard? Was there like bumps in the road? Was it exciting? Were you happier once you made that change? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, were there bumps in the road? Heck yeah. Right?
Yes.
Was it easy to abandon an education and a really lucrative job? Not every day.
Yeah.
Am I happier? Absolutely. I mean, you know, they in the big world talk about like, find a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I never really bought that. But I'm going to tell you what, I'm not working right now. Yeah. You know, I've landed in a place that I know is aligned with what I'm meant to be doing in this season of my life because it doesn't feel like work. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's hard. And yeah, I work hard. And yeah, I mean, I own my own business and in 2020 and 2021. Like, it's been weird times, but it's so absolutely worth looking at opportunities to inject more happiness into your life. That said, it does not mean you have to throw it all away and start over fresh. I spent 15 years building towards this point, and I still, each time I made a change that was more aligned with what my priority was in that season, I was happier. So if you're sitting in a job where you've been in it for 10 years and you think you don't have choices, I actually think that's the perfect moment to enlist some outside help, to talk to a coach and explore what are the adjustments that you can make today, and then what are the adjustments that you want to make over the longer term to have a little bit more happiness. I can tell you I have so many clients who come to me for coaching who basically have that story. Like, this is the job or the career that I've had, and I've looked at every next job that I've taken to determine whether it's the one to take based on whether the title is more prestigious or the salary is bigger. Nothing else. Not will it make me happier, not do I like the company better, not will I like my day-to-day work better, not does it give me the balance I want with my life. Very rarely are those things considered. And so there are ways to incorporate incrementally more happiness. And then when you're ready to take a bigger leap, if that's what you need to do.
That's great. I want you to, can you explain to us a little bit more about what you do as an executive coach? I know you hit it a little bit there at the end, but could you go a little more into what you do when you actually are doing this coaching?
So let me make sure I answered the right question. Do you want me to answer what coaching looks like, or who I coach, or both?
Both. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So who I coach, I actually work with 3 different groups of clients right now, broadly speaking. One is I call emerging leaders. So people who are at a new level of leadership, looking to up-level their skills and fill in some blind spots. And what that really often becomes is an opportunity to lean into leading authentically. Second, I work with entrepreneurs who are looking to build businesses that make them happy and get more focus and clarity on how to allocate their time. And then the third is I work with people who are in career transition. So people who are trying to figure out exactly what you asked, John, which is, I'm not happy where I landed. What do I do now? Or I thought by now I would be more happy because I'm successful on paper. What do I do now?
Perfect. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that was good. Did you have anything else, bro?
No. Can you get into a little bit, about your book coming up in April?
Sure.
You have a book called The Happiness Recipe, A Powerful Guide to Living What Matters.
Yes.
When it comes out, I promise I will be a buyer, and I would love to read it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, but if you don't, so on this podcast, we are big about reading.
Yeah.
We say leaders are readers. You have to continually grow yourself. You have to put, you can't give what you don't have. You have to fill yourself up so you can go and serve others and put stuff out for other people. And so part of growing and filling up that cup is to listen to good things and read good information. I say, like I said, good information. There's lots to read and there's lots to listen to, but a lot of that shouldn't be put into this mind of yours. But you have a book. So like I said, The Happiness Recipe, A Powerful Guide to Living What Matters. Can you tell us about your book and when it comes out?
Sure. So the book will be out in early April, and it is really an action-based guide to living a happier life, kind of starting right now. And it's based on the premise that the formula or the recipe for maximum happiness is really very simple. It's to do more of what matters and less of the rest. But simple doesn't mean easy to execute, right? So I kind of address in sequence what I see are the 3 biggest gaps that stop us from executing on that recipe. The first is what I call the authenticity gap, which fits into everything we've been talking about today. But it's, do you really know what matters most to you? And are you willing to live that and claim that to the world? And then because we're an action-based society, I jump I'll jump ahead and talk about the third gap, which is physical energy gap. It's, do we spend our time, energy, and resources on what matters most to us versus anything else? Once we've established that we're clear on what our priorities are we living them? And then there's the middle gap that I think gets missed a lot, which is, do we have the supportive beliefs and feelings to really allow us to execute on those priorities? And I call that the emotional energy gap. So the book works through, along with exercises that you can do. It's sort of like a DIY coaching book to walk you through how to live happier right now.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you wanted to leave our Unscripted family?
I don't think so. I appreciate this, guys.
Absolutely.
How can they find you? Like if they want to
That's a
find
good
you,
one.
social media, website, stuff like that.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at the.butterfly.society. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can visit my website, which is www.grantleycoaching.com.
Awesome.
Guys, check out her LinkedIn profile. I got a lot of golden nuggets just by reading articles that she had written, posts. I post like silly things. She posts things of gold. That's how I got some content, and I already knew some of the answers, but I wanted you guys to hear. So go on her LinkedIn, follow, connect, and check out some of the information, and obviously Instagram too. I'm just a big believer in the LinkedIn world. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and definitely go get her book that's coming out in April. You'll see that at the bottom of your screen there.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness Recipe, a powerful guide to living what matters. And you all know that we are always promoting reading, and our read of the month is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That book will change your life for the better. We want you to read that and also get Becky's new book. And we thank you for coming on our platform and dropping some wisdom and some new perspectives. I enjoyed having you here. I'm sure our audience will enjoy watching this back. We thank you for all those that have watched this, that will watch the replay or stream this back. As always, we ask you to continue to support us there on our YouTube channel, on our various social media platform pages there on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As John had just said, you can find us there on LinkedIn as well. You can stream our platform from Google Podcasts to Apple to Spotify, and also you can find us on our website, unscripted-leadership.com. This has been another episode of the Unscripted Authentic Leadership Podcast with our special guest, Becky Morrison. Thank you once again, all of you that are watching and listening. We pray that you be the leader that God has called you to be. We're here to build bridges and not walls. Bridges connect and walls divide. Until next time, God bless you.